I think that for pediatricians, uh, the biggest takeaway is to advise their patients and advise parents that there are risks with cannabis use, including in changing potentially some of the thinking abilities of their patients. And so it's better to wait. It's better to wait until they're older, that the kids will probably have better outcomes, better cognitive performance over time if they're not using cannabis. So when it comes to cannabis, both our data and other studies indicate that memory is probably the most vulnerable to cannabis use and most associated with changes with cannabis use. Both, again, within our study looking at hair samples and in our participants who were using cannabis, as well as in rodent models and other data, all points to memory being tied closely. So that would be the primary cognitive domain that I would have the most concern with is making sure to be monitoring memory. Uh, though here, our data also suggests that across the board, every domain we assessed was associated with different trajectories. So memory most specifically, but really all areas of the brain may be impacted. Yeah, so our follow-up analyses, we looked at hair data to see about THC, which is the main intoxicating component of cannabis, relative to CBD exposure, which is technically legal with the 2018 Farm Bill across the country, relative to no exposure to any cannabis products at all. And in our study, we found that those who had THC exposure specifically demonstrated worse performance in episodic memory over time. And so what that suggests to us is that THC might be the mechanism by which we see some different cognitive performance. Yeah, one of the unique things that we found is that we combined both objective measurement through drug testing with self-report. And about a third of our participants would have been grouped as controls had we not used both methods, which could have changed the results altogether if our use group was actually lumped into the control group. What I think that means for pediatricians is that, and for parents, is just to assume that people are more likely to use than they might tell you, and to provide the same type of psychoeducation and information, regardless of whether or not you think somebody might use cannabis. But just let them know ahead of time, you know, there could be risks if you are thinking about using cannabis. And so maybe you want to hold off on using it. Yeah, so we found that all of these relationships were significant even after we controlled for many other factors like other substance use and prenatal exposure and mental health and family history and demographics. And so to me, again, I think the big take home then is that cannabis does have a relationship with cognition. And so we just need to spread the word and make sure that anybody knows that this is a potential risk if somebody wants to consider starting using cannabis, especially when they're an adolescent.